I think there was a couple people that were related to Darcy McGee. And on the tour, apparently the doors closed, trapping him in this one room.
Yeah, because I know, if you know the history, right, that Whalen held on to his innocence right till the very end. Like he said, it wasn't him. And there are some questions on whether he did it or not.
And I think that there was an issue with the day that they did the hanging on as well, too.
Oh, I didn't know.
I don't recall what the issue was, but apparently it was a certain day that they weren't supposed to do the hanging. But again, this was a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because the Ottawa jail's gallows, as far as I know, are probably the only historically intact gallows in this entire country. Because you can you got death row, you walk to the very back, go down some stairs, and there's the noose, the gallows, and the barn doors in front of it. So basically, they put the condemned over a trap door inside the building, and then they open the barn doors to like a courtyard, and that's where everybody stood and watched. And it's still fully intact. They've changed nothing about it. It's so creepy.
But I think the other time using not the Ouija board, but I mean just a spirit board, was over at Fort Henry on the Haunted Hamilton Ghost Walk. I don't recall the person's name, but two of us took a spirit board and we went into some place and we tried to communicate, and some things made sense and some things were just gibberish.
But it was moving for you, right?
It was moving.
It was just two of you?
It was just two of us.
Oh.
I don't recall where in the fort where we were, but there was this one, I guess, lady on the tour that apparently was having a spirit follow her, because she would come and she would touch the Ouija board and it would move, for her. And then when she would leave, everything was fine.
That was a pretty active night. I remember one of the doors slammed on its own. Because we were staying in the area, like the old area of the fort. I couldn't sleep because I mentioned to you guys about the spiders. I couldn't handle it. Yeah. They were friggin' everywhere. And we were sitting in the old area, and I remember when we were walking through, the door slammed. I wasn't too far away from it.
Yeah. But I think, my overall opinion of the Ouija board, I mean, I guess it's depending on what I've read, even though it was still... I think it was all on the Haunted Hamilton website. One was with regards to the Blue Ghost Tunnel, where the one person took the Ouija board to the Blue Ghost Tunnel and was, using it by himself.
Who was that?
I forgot who did that.
Everybody listening, do a search for Blue Ghost Tunnel. There's a couple articles that will pop up about it. In fact, just recently, there's a Atlas Obscura website posted a link, and they gave the coordinates, so people can go visit it. I don't know how legal that is, but they did it.
I know it's not. Apparently, the property itself is owned by the St. Lawrence Seaway Commission. And I've never been there, obviously. I'd like to go, but I'm not going to take the chance.
Yeah, they watch it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main reasons why they watch it, nobody's ever said this officially, but I'm pretty sure, because if you ever go, I highly recommend do not go at night the first time if you don't know your way around, because right beside the pathway that leads to the tunnel is an abandoned Welland Canal lock. And by abandoned, I mean it's drained. And if you go there there's no fence. So if you walk the wrong direction, you're falling like 200 feet to your death. And I remember, because I went there during the day, and I'm terrified of heights. And I crawled up, like war style, to look down. And I'll never forget, at the very bottom of this thing, you can see it a little tiny, like the size of an ant, was a rusted out Ford Tempo. But it's right beside the main pathway. So if you go if you go right, you head down the pathway to the tunnel. And if you go left, you're dead.
Wow.
So, I can see why they're guarding it so much. It's just crazy, dangerous.
But I mean, in other opinion, I mean, I think, like with regards to the Ouija board, I mean, I know when you had the haunted shop, you had spirit boards there, and thought that those in respect are much better than what's commercially available. Thank you Parker Brothers or Hasbro for commercializing the Ouija board as if it's some sort of a game.
It's good to be able to actually have access to it.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the point of marketing it to children like you were mentioning, Aiden, but at least making it possible to get one.
Yeah, more like too easy to get one. I mean, because you can go into any Toys R Us shop or any kid store that sells board games, and it's there. I mean, I think Walmart has them as well too.
I don't doubt it. But I remember I was trying to make the decision. So we had in Niagara on the Lake, we had the Museum of the Paranormal, and then after that, the Ghost Walks gift shop, which is there now. And people ask me the questions like, "Why don't you sell Ouija boards?" I was trying to make the decision on it. So at one point, I brought them in. It was my ex who made them custom, and she made 3 of them, and we put them in the shop. And I watched as people would walk in, take a look, and just do a U-turn and walk right back out. And I remember even one time, I wasn't there for this, but somebody walked in, looked my ex right in the eyes and said, "Witches," and then left. So yeah, it was soon after that I took them out.
Yeah.
So, but I can see the stigma, right? There's a stigma with them.
Well,
But you
again,
just gotta-
it comes.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, Ted.
You're good.
Again, it comes back to the Hollywood movies.
Mhm.
It starts with The Exorcist, and now you've got this new generation of Ouija movies.
Yeah.
The 2 that they made, and you got the Conjuring films and all this that are now bringing all that forward again.
Yeah.
Everybody's got this deathly fear of the Ouija board because it's going to conjure demons if they use it.
Well, I mean, I think maybe a few years ago, well, not really a few years ago, maybe in the 90s or 80s, there was a sitcom, and one episode they featured a Ouija board, just to use as a prop. I mean, it was an actual board game Ouija board.
What's a sitcom?
I don't recall which one it was, but I know
Full House? No. Family Matters?
I don't think it was either of those.
It's the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head.
But yeah, no, they
Sure, there was
were
last
using
night,
the Ouija board, and I mean, I think what they they didn't really. Yeah, I mean, of course, it was all faked and everything, but I mean that's sort of a bad.
But what was the lesson? Do you remember the lesson they were trying? Was it that you shouldn't use them, or were they making more of a joke of it?
They were just making.
More of a joke.
It was more of a joke, rather than actual using it.
Yeah. No, I find that, as I mentioned, with the idea that the whole idea of ghost hunting, haunted places, and everything connected in between is considered more of a joke today than I think it's ever has been. So if you go back to the 1990s, Haunted Hamilton first started in 99, and then into the early 2000s, it was just starting to build up. And you eventually saw the invent of shows like Creepy Canada and then Paranormal State, and the Ghost Hunters was starting out. And there's
Scariest Places.
Scary Oh, I love that place. Yeah, I love that show. And it was all at that height, and then it just kind of started to dive. Now, why do you think the idea of ghosts dived? Any thoughts?
Well, if I'll add the TV show Ghost Adventures to that list, because that's the one I watch all the time. The early episodes were fantastic. I love them. But the current seasons, the last few years, they're just terrible. And it's like, they're faking evidence. At least I'm not going to claim that they're faking evidence.
Allegedly.
In my opinion, they're allegedly faking evidence.
But why do you think that?
Ratings.
What makes you think that is fake?
Just.
Oh, by the way, everyone, Ian is a paranormal investigator, so when I ask him this question, I'm asking him as somebody who knows.
I've been doing this for a number of years now, and I've been to many locations, and it's not like you see on TV where something happens all the time. You get every one of these TV episodes. It's full of all this paranormal activity. People are getting possessed. Things are flying around the room, and they're getting EVPs left and right. It's like, it doesn't work like that in the real world of paranormal research and investigation. None of that is true.
Yeah. Do you think that's what's kind of not killing it, but
Well, I think that's
responsible
what
for
it
the
is.
downfall?
There's so many of these shows out now,
Yeah.
and they're all, I assume it's the producers of the programs telling them, okay, well, here's how it's going to be done,
Yeah.
because we need ratings over this show, so we can, make our moolah, and it's just killing it. As I say, Ghost Adventures, the early episodes are great. The guys were out there and they're investigating, and in my opinion, back then, they were actually trying. You could see they're having fun doing it, and you watch it now, and it's like it's dull, boring television full of rubbish, in my opinion.
But maybe it's not that it's dull and boring. Maybe it just fell to the old adage, like what's happening with the news media right now. Not to get too political, but it starts at one point to get clicks. You got to make money, right? So they keep raising the bar until everybody's like, "This is the most ridiculous crap I've ever heard of," and they just shut their brain off to it. So your thought is that maybe it's fallen into that fake news model where it's been raised too high and now it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I think originally, putting Creepy Canada aside, because if anybody's ever watched an episode, I think they were at the top of that bar from the beginning.
Screaming tunnel.
But let's talk about Paranormal State. Is with Ryan Buell back in the day. It was one of my favorites. It was one of the few that I could actually watch and enjoy. Ryan got a little bit too religious for my liking in some of it, but you could tell he really believed it and he really wanted to help people. And it was basically, he would go in, the people would tell him their experience. You could tell it wasn't hired actors, which other shows have done. They were made nameless. But he would go in, and these were real people telling him real stories, and there was a value to that. And then him and his team, sometimes Lorraine Warren came out from Conjuring fame, and Chip Coffey. I don't know if any of you know, Chip Coffey was one of the famous psychics back then. And they would come out and they would help out, and it was like a family. It was great stories, great locations, nothing too over the top. He did big name locations like West Virginia Penn, but for the most part, it was families' homes.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. For what I've been trying to say is, it's over the top. It's just too much.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like somebody told them that. No, wait, it's more like they've realized. And here's another complaint I'm sure you guys might agree with, is they realized that for some reason the over-the-top scary fiction horror movies have been the most popular. Where, and this, I absolutely despise this, but they rely on jump scares to scare people, which is not a real scare. But there's so many jump scares, it almost seems like they tried to change the real ghost story into being more like the horror movie.
It's like when they do the investigations on scariest places, they you see the people with the cameras and stuff, and it's like they go into something and they do a jump scare almost, or because they see something move or something else, or they hear something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to tell if what they're seeing is actually real or if it's something that is just going on in their mind.
I can almost guarantee it's fake.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's way over the top. Like I mentioned before on the podcast, the idea that, and this was a tactic that they did. One of the shows admitted this to me behind the scenes. I won't say which one. But they said a tactic that they would do is that the talent would be over in one area, and then in a dark corner in a distant area, a producer would take an object and slam it against the wall and make the noises. So, of course, when the talent reacts, they think it's something ghostly. So it's not like an Oscar-winning performance. They actually are freaked out, but it's just the producer in the other room. And then the whole show becomes about that.
But there was a good series on YTV, and I think I only managed to see 2 episodes of it. And it was a Canadian series, I believe. Not Creepy Canada. But they went to places like... they had kids doing investigations like at Fort Mississauga.
Ghost trackers.
Yes.
Ghost trackers.
And
yes.
the Urchin's Estate as well. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Which